So we probably would have known each other in high school if we went to the same high school.
We probably would have run in the same crowds.
God's got a weird sense of humor, huh?
Yeah.
Years later,
to have us
running
both in the
ministries.
positions we're in now. Uh-huh. Yeah, there's so many times I'm like, Lord, how in the world am I here?
Every time I turn on my phone or the TV, it feels like the world's falling apart. The news is full of chaos, and if that's all you ever see, it's easy to believe everything's just getting worse. But that's not what I'm seeing behind the scenes. In real life, in our communities, I'm watching God move like I've never seen before. I've seen lives restored, churches growing, revival happening at business events, people stepping out in faith, and God giving dreams and visions, calling people to rise up and make a difference. And that's why I started Transforming Communities, because I want to show you what God is actually doing right now. I want to introduce you to my friends, people who are stepping up, taking risks, and transforming their cities for the kingdom. So if you're tired of bad news and you've been wondering if God still moves, He does, and these stories prove it.
This episode is brought to you by Helping Captives. You know, it's crazy how many people don't realize that human trafficking isn't just somewhere else. It happens right here in our own communities. Helping Captives is a faith-based anti-trafficking organization that exists to provide freedom, hope, and opportunity to survivors of sex trafficking across the United States. They do this through their different services such as emergency and stabilization, 24/7 around-the-clock care, professional counseling, and much more. If you're a survivor of sex trafficking and need help, or you're wanting to support a survivor's journey, take the first step at helpingcaptives.org. That's helpingcaptives.org. Today on Transforming Communities, I sat down with my friend Glendie Loranger. She runs Life Services, one of the largest pregnancy medical centers in the Pacific Northwest, and it's a ministry that's been a lifeline for thousands of women, men, and babies over the years. Behind the title of executive director, though, is a story of trauma that she didn't choose, the weight of a decision she carried in silence for 16 years, and Jesus meeting her in a way that she never saw coming. This is one of those conversations that I knew was going to be heavy, but what I didn't expect was the hope on the other side of it. If you've ever lived under the weight of a decision that you can't take back, if you've ever wondered whether God's forgiveness really does reach all the way down to where you actually are, or if you love someone who's quietly carrying that silence, this conversation is going to stay with you. So here's my conversation with Glendie. All right, guys, today on the Transforming Communities podcast, I've got a good friend here with me, Glendie. She is the executive director of Life Services, which is it, what do you call it? Is it like a pro-life organization, anti-abortion clinic? I don't know. Like, what's the technical terminology that you guys would use?
Probably the most common one that we would use is Pregnancy Resource Center or Pregnancy Medical Center, because we're a full medical clinic.
Oh, that's incredible. Okay.
So, yeah.
But then you're part of the pro-life movement.
We are, absolutely.
Okay.
I probably use life affirming more often.
Okay.
Most people use pro-life and they view it as a political term.
Yeah.
Everything that we do comes from a life affirming viewpoint.
Okay.
Where we're just gonna help people step into that mindset that life is to be protected and supported and nurtured.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, yeah.
But see, that's why she's the expert. I imagine we're going to get into some pretty interesting topics in this one.
You think, Caleb?
Yeah. But the first question I want to ask you is, if I met Glendie in high school,
oh man,
like who would I have met?
Let's see. In high school, grew up in Montana.
Okay.
And so loved being in Montana. Wasn't necessarily a country girl, was just, we were in kind of a mid-size little town. You would have met somebody that on the front end put up a pretty good front, that I had it all together.
Okay.
And it was so incredibly insecure. Pretty big chameleon.
Yeah. So
I probably would have been one person at school, and then you would have seen me on the weekend. I would have been a totally different person.
Okay.
Yeah. I was involved in sports, but I wasn't great at them. So I actually, my senior year of high school, I stepped into sports medicine. So I was part of a team of student athletic trainers that helped tape ankles and take care of injuries and do all of that, because I couldn't actually perform on the field or on the court. So I got,
You're like, this is how I can be involved, but I'm really good in the church league.
No, was not a believer. Oh, church was actually, yeah.
Well, that's what I joke about. I'm like, hey, I'm I was a really good basketball player in the church league.
Yeah. I didn't even know there was a church league. I wouldn't have even known that. No, I grew up as a creaster, so Christmas Eve, Easter Sunday churchgoer.
Okay.
I went to youth group strictly because they were cute guys.
Okay.
And only went sporadically. So that was, yeah. You would have seen a party gal who, lived for the guys and the party. And that's not, I'm not proud of that.
Yeah.
But
so we probably would have known each other in high school if we went to the same high school.
We probably would have run in the same crowds.
God's got a weird sense of humor, huh?
Yeah.
Years later,
to have us both
ministries.
in the positions we're in now. Yeah. There's so many times I'm like, Lord, how in the world am I here?
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. What, I think I want to just maybe dive in, if you're open to it.
Yeah.
Because you run a pregnancy medical center, what happened in your life to make you passionate to want to do this work?
You already know what a loaded question that is. But
I know.
Way to ask the easy one right off the bat, Caleb.
That's why I was like, let's just dive in.
Let's just dive in.
Yeah,
Well,
I've
you know
known
me.
you too long, so I'm like, let's
super
just
direct.
go there.
Well, I think probably just to dial back, the reason I now know for the insecurity and so much of the chameleon part of me was that very early in my childhood, there were people in my extended family who had access to me that they never should have had, and led to a lot of trauma really early on, a lot of sexual trauma. And a lot of that I didn't know. I had every symptom. You would have wondered what happened. But a lot of it I had repressed. I had probably more memories and nightmares, night terrors, and recurring dreams, and just all these pieces that didn't add up, and pieces and parts of my memory that were just not even there when I entered adulthood. So that led to the way that played out in my choices was very highly sexualized, very a lot of promiscuity. And I grew up in the 80s, so a little older than you, Caleb, by a little bit, a lot bit. And I don't think sexual trauma, you never heard it talked about.
Okay.
You never heard anything like that. You never heard the term sexual abuse. So it wasn't anything that I didn't even have an avenue to recognize why I was acting the way I was. But I literally was looking for a guy just to fill that void in me and tell me that I actually had something of worth. And the only way I knew to do that was through the use of my body. And so by the time I hit my teen years, I can actually say, yep, I'm going to say this. The form of trauma I was experiencing was a form of trafficking, and not something I'm really released to share details about, but I know with what you do, it's become something that people can, it's become something that I know that I can own as a part of my history. It took me a long time to own that word.
Yeah. You and a lot of people.
Say that again?
I said you and a lot of people.
Yeah. Just to even say that word was
probably really hard.
Yeah. Intensely hard. And that's just recent.
Yeah.
So in my teen years, I had 3 different abortions, 2 of which were not my choice. So the one I talk about was the one that I chose at the age of 17.
Okay.
And so I'll share that story if that's okay.
Let's go there. I don't want to, when you're working with people that have come out of situations where there was some trafficking, like it's not the Lord knows when to release stories, and there's so many pieces to it, and individuals connected that I'm not gonna press in and go there. You're in your journey, and you just shared a huge thing, and
Yeah.
that's fine. The one question I guess I would have is, which you had 3 abortions, 2 that you didn't choose, and then 1 you did. Which ones came first?
The one that wasn't chosen for me. I was 15.
Okay.
And that was
The thing you're not released to talk about quite yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may seem weird when you think, how did somebody have an abortion and it wasn't chosen for her? There's an element of abortion that most people don't understand, that it is the perfect place to hide for abusers and traffickers. And that was my case. Because you get the gal pregnant, well, let's just have the abortion, and you can go on using her.
Yeah.
And so that was my case.
And if you threaten her enough and stuff, she won't say the real story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was so much of the abuse piece. But the abortion, I do remember, happened right after I graduated, senior year, and I don't even remember the night with the guy. Just woke up, just going, okay, know what we did. And later that summer, I had all the symptoms of being pregnant, and went to the local abortion agency and had the appointment. I'd actually gone to a teacher who I'd become really close to and said, I think I'm in trouble. And he got me an appointment at the abortion agency. And I think the first words out of my mouth when I found out I was pregnant were, I can't have a baby. And so the gal at that agency didn't even question it. She just said, okay, let's move forward. And that one I ended up telling my folks. And I think the craziest part about it is that nobody pushed back. I literally just said, I can't have a baby. And so everybody said, well, we're not having a baby then. We're going to push forward for an abortion. We had an abortion appointment made within an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. So 4 days before I left for college and came out here to Eastern, I aborted my son. I had a dream. Here's what's crazy, Caleb. I had a dream the night before that abortion. And I just remember dreaming of this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy. And I knew that he was my son. And I still went forward with it, knowing exactly what I was doing and just shoving that all down. And then I moved into the dorms out here at Eastern in Cheney, and I was an all-fired mess. I'd already been pretty emotional, but that tipped me over.
That tipped you over.
Over an edge. Yeah. And so then the behavior just increased, and so much self-destructive behavior.
Right.
So that continued through most of my freshman and sophomore year. There was another abortion in there. Some of the abuse followed me. And so I was a mess until I met a guy, and finally met the guy that I know the Lord had in mind for me. And he helped pull me out of all of that. And thankfully, 35 years later, he's my husband.
There's so much to unpack there.
I know, right?
It sounds to me like there's a part of you that's like, hey, I went into the clinic, and within an hour, all I said was, I can't have a kid. And you still talk about there wasn't a lot of pushback.
There was no pushback.
And so did it not feel like you had another alternative, another voice, another option? And is that why you're so passionate about being that other voice and that other option for these young moms?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into it. And I mean, when you've been set free, and we'll get to that, I know, from the shame of abortion, you can't help but want that for other people. But on the front end, looking at the 17-year-old me, knowing that nobody had the courage to push back, it was just a normalized part of our society by then. People didn't view it as anything. People weren't out and about with their abortions. Like, nobody talked about it.
Yeah.
But it was viewed and presented to me like just a medical procedure. Like, this was just a tumor that just needed a surgical removal.
Yeah.
And in fact, I remember the nurse coming in and just saying, oh, it's just 2.2 ounces of tissue. And I think everybody who has an abortion, there is some kind of lie or some statement, some decision that they make that they kind of hang their hat on. This is why I had to do this. This is why I didn't have a choice.
Got it.
And for me, that was just a confirmation. It wasn't a baby. It was just 2.2 ounces of tissue. And so I kind of hung my hat on that lie. And so with what we do now, especially with our medical clinic, being able to not manipulate, not coerce a woman into trying to take our view. I mean, I think that's a big misnomer about pregnancy medical centers, is that we're trying to convince a woman to keep her baby. We want a woman to know all of her options, not just the woman, but the guy who's with her.
Yeah.
We want them to understand what they're actually doing, and to really think critically about what they're doing, slow down their thinking. None of that happened with me. It was just boom, 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 boom.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of was picking up on that when you were saying that. I was like, oh, that's interesting. What do you think were maybe some like the emotional or spiritual impacts that you went through because of that decision?
Terminating the life of your child when the Lord's revealed that it is a child, there is a full-on, not just dip your toe in the water. There's a 2 feet jump into the depths of that deceptiveness. And so that played out in so many ways. I would say I was over-emotional, hyper-emotional. So things that most people would react and go, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
You'd see me bawling, like hyperventilating, bawling. Had so much anger. Things that you would have gone, well, that's irritating, right? The normal person would. I would be over the top in a rage. I had so much self-hatred, and that played out in a lot of the ways I talked about myself, a lot of the decisions, the alcohol, some of the drugs, definitely with the guys, the risky situations I put myself in. And then I would say in college, before I got married, there was a hypersexuality that just played out, a lot of riskiness there. But then when John and I got married, so we got married right after college, being able, like the intimacy issues were crazy. And I know a lot of women have that, but there were so many intimacy issues, just so many triggers with intimacy that.
So crazy how the enemy does that. It's like he does everything to make you promiscuous before you get married. And then when you're married, it's like he tries everything to keep you from being able to enjoy it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I married this Christian guy. Can I talk about John for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's this guy, we were doing our internship together. We were both in the sports med department at Eastern. And
so he was a Christian when you met him?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And
it's what drew me to him.
You were a creaster.
And I was, at that point I was not doing church, not doing anything. Okay. I was, but he had a stability about him. We were in the same internship.
Yeah.
And I was drawn to that. I mean, he was funny. John has so many amazing qualities, incredibly wise. We were in the same study group, same internship. And he was super funny. But it was the stability and his security. And I remember we drove to work one day together. We were both working at the commissariat on base. That was kind of our part-time gig. And we drove. And so I start asking him just about his family, and I realize he's Christian. And he starts answering questions about God. I was so jaded. I'd say things like, so you're a Christian, so you pray, you talk to God. And does he answer you? Like, are you hearing voices? And he would answer me and say, yep, I do talk to God. It's called prayer. And yes, I do hear the voice of God. And no, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
It would just shut me up. I never heard anybody talk about their faith with such security
And confidence.
and confidence.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, and he did everything he wasn't supposed to do and actually married me. I wasn't a Christian. Married me after college. And I still kind of look at it. It was almost like a Hosea and Gomer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that John would say that, but
That's how you're viewing it.
that's kind of how I viewed it. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he stayed married to me because I was so vile our first year. Potty-mouthed and just did not know how to be a wife. Did not know how to be faithful. I was faithful. That by the grace of God.
Yeah.
I was faithful to John, but holy cow, that was a battle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
So 35 years later, here we are.
So that's interesting. What did it feel like when you walked into the abortion clinic?
I remember walking this out with a friend of mine who wanted me to walk back through the day. And I think numb is probably the first word.
Okay.
Just let's get it over with. It was like brown 70s furniture, an old brick building. And I don't remember much of anything. I remember feeling humiliated. And probably even more humiliated that I was putting my mom through that because she was with me.
Your mom went with you.
Yeah, my mom drove me. We weren't able to have it in the town that we lived in.
Okay.
So we had to drive about 5 hours.
Okay.
And there's a part of my story, I think if you're okay, I'll just go there, where a lot of this came to a head many years later after we'd had kiddos. John and I had kids. We had our first one biologically, Reed, and he's phenomenal. He's pastor now, married, and has his own kids. And then Adam was our babe that we adopted. And when Adam came along, it's like all of the anger, everything came to a head, and I actually became a danger to the kids. And John was working. He knew I had anger issues, but it wasn't. I crossed a line with Adam one day and called him home, and all of a sudden it was in his face. And I knew that I now know he had plans to leave if I didn't get help, because he sat me down and gave me an ultimatum, said, I'm not going to lose the kids because of you. It's time to get your anger under control. So long story short, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to go to a counselor, so I went to a pastor's wife. And I was a brand new Christian. John had led me to the Lord several years after we'd been married and stuck with me, but trying to walk out Christianity, living that double life, that angry, at home, just rage always right there.
Yeah.
And then go to church and
Put the mask on.
be the wife and put the mask on. Yeah, that was a hard. I just used the same chameleon tactics that I did. So when John called me out, I didn't know where to go. I just went to our pastor's wife, and she prayed and just asked the Lord where the rage is coming from, because I couldn't have told you. I didn't connect that with the abortion or any of the trauma. And her name was Diana. And the minute she asked the Lord in prayer, Lord, just show us where Glendie's rage is coming from, I knew that it was the abortion. I knew that it was what I had chosen, and I had chosen to terminate my son's life. And then my new son's birth mom had chosen to carry him and then placed him in my arms, and I'm his adoptive mama. And so there was just this cloud of unworthiness that was so incredibly heavy. And
Oh, man.
yeah, I didn't feel worthy to be his mom. Like, who am I to do that? And so it came out in rage against him, which doesn't make sense. There's there's a lot of data now that says that many women who experience abortion have a really hard time connecting or bonding with future children. And yeah, with our little Adam, we're really close now. He knows the whole story, but
Wow.
yeah. So Diana walked me back through the day of the abortion.
Sweet lady.
Amazing lady.
Yeah.
And here's the incredible part about having somebody who will stand by you and listen to those details. I know you don't get to enter into, as a guy, the details with the clients that you serve here, right?
Yeah, not till they're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So on the front end, in the middle of it, having somebody who will enter into that with you,
Yeah.
there is that is an incredible gift. And so Diana just gave me that gift. She said, she started asking questions, same questions you asked. What was it like walking in? What do you remember? And so I walked her through most of what I remembered. A lot of it I end up repressing. There's just lots of holes in it. But I remember getting to the end of the procedure, and I started screaming, I killed my baby. I killed my baby. And
Oh my gosh.
so much so that they called my mom into the room. That's when the nurse told me it was just 2.2 ounces of tissue. So the very first time I walked this through with Diana, and I'm telling her all of this, Caleb, I am telling her that I was screaming, I killed my baby. And then I said, but Diana, it wasn't a baby. It was just 2.2 ounces of tissue. And I never had a vision in my life. Never. I was, like I said, new and probably pretty nominal Christian. And I literally had a vision of a white wall lifting. And behind that wall, I saw Jesus. And he was holding a baby. And I heard him speak to me. And he said, it wasn't just tissue, Glendie. He was your son, and you'll be with him in heaven. And I will tell you, I'd already given my life to the Lord, but that was the moment where Jesus all of a sudden was who he said he was.
Yeah.
He was actual. He was real to me. He, I knew that I was forgiven. So.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, it's, not sure if you wanted to go there that soon, but that's probably my favorite part of the whole story.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great part of the story. The reason I'm tearing up is, it's, well, one, it's just touching, but two, I remember when I was in high school with my girlfriend walking into a Planned Parenthood, and I just remember the feeling of it, and it was just cold and wasn't serving the Lord, but it felt demonic, and it felt like death, and it just felt cold. And it was just one of those like kind of day after pill, showing up for a day after pill, but we were probably a little late to doing that. But I still remember just walking into it, just the feeling of the building, the random box of condoms or a bucket of condoms just sitting out there.
Wow.
And I'm in high school, not even, probably 16.
Yeah.
And then just the conversation that we had to have a few weeks later when she was crying and just explaining kind of like what transpired with her physically.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it just wrecks you later on. But in your head at the time, you know, there's difference being a 37-year-old Christian man looking at that.
Yeah.
And versus a 16-year-old kid that's not serving the Lord, because you are told just, well, if you get her pregnant, whatever, just go get an abortion. Like it's birth control.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like just that was the conversation. And then so I think that just impacted me because I had kind of a similar story when later on in life when we were just praying about that, and I had to ask the Lord for forgiveness for that, and just having that reality of like, geez, man, like,
Yeah.
that's the decision that we made.
I'm so sorry,
You know.
Caleb. I didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but yeah.
Well, and it's not presented as a life.
No,
It's not
you're not
presented
even-
as a child or a baby.
I
Like
didn't even think of it really like that until my girlfriend told me. She was crying and just kind of explaining like it, you know, just clumps in the toilet and stuff coming out, and you're just like, man, you know, it hit me a little bit, and I just kind of immediately suppressed it because I wasn't serving the Lord.
Yeah.
And then later on in life, through different healing things, it just kind of gets put on you. And I think part of it, like yours, there's something else that comes into your life where it kind of triggers it. And for me, it was like marrying my wife and realizing her mom was actually raped. And that's how my wife came to be.
Wow.
And her mom was told to get an abortion and chose not to.
Okay.
And so that's how I ended up marrying my wife. So you get confronted with some of these things. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't think the Lord ever. I think when we walk in something like this, where we're actually denying the existence of another life, a life that
Yeah.
is part of us, right? I mean, our child. When we deny that, the Lord will bring it up again.
Yeah.
And I think what I found over the years, because it was 16 years between when I had the abortion and when I actually dealt with the abortion.
Okay.
So that's a long period of time.
Yeah. It's a good chunk of time.
It's a good chunk of time. And I think the Lord brings it up, says, you're gonna look at this?
Yeah.
And most of the time we go, nope. Not
Yeah.
today, not ever.
Yeah.
And we shove it down.
We didn't have an abortion. It was a day after pill.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah. There you go. I didn't have an abortion. It was just 2.2 ounces of tissue. It
Yeah.
wasn't a baby.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but then the next time he brings it up, it's a little hotter. Right. There's a little bit more at stake. And then
Yeah.
the next time he brings it up, it's a little bit more at stake until the point where I was going to lose my kids unless I actually looked at it.
Where your husband sat down and said, here's an ultimatum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
It's always fun
not
when your
even
spouse
linking
does that. I've had that conversation with mine. Of just like, hey, you know, you really need to get help and we need to walk through some of this stuff because you just suppress a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's what sin, that's what the enemy wants us to do with sin, right? I mean, we are convicted by sin and none of us ever wants to walk through it.
Yeah.
We lead hope groups, healing our past experiences we do them for people who've experienced abortion, people who've experienced miscarriage and pregnancy loss. And we just see so often just a reticence. I don't want to go there. I don't want to open that wound. Why would I want to go there? That's painful. And yet it's walking through that pain that's where we find that the Lord works so beautifully.
I feel like it's funny you just said that because I feel like I had this time with the Lord a few months ago, and just lots of transition with the ministry, lots of big things going on, and it was like, I probably need to go back and just see my counselor. I love my counselor to talk through stuff. She helped me process so much stuff back in the day. And it was interesting because what I found with just praying and kind of being there talking to her, it's almost like you end up in a pit, like you're in a pit, but you don't want to go there. You don't want to deal with it. And you don't feel like maybe you can get out of the pit because you're too broken. So you're just kind of happy that God saved you. And, but subconsciously what you do is you end up, it's almost like you go get the lights, you go get the pillows, you go get everything, and you just kind of make a home down in the pit. And you're just kind of like trying to be comfortable with it. And you're like, well, of course these things are going to come up. But like, or for me as a guy, it's like, well, of course I'm going to get attacked with lust here and there, but I've got this block on my phone and I've got this. And so you're just patching holes all the time down in your pit instead of going, I really want to get to the meat of like why, because of some of my decisions, some of the stuff I went through that I don't want to go re-look at. some trauma that I went through. I'm like, I don't want to go there.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's like God starts touching on that stuff. And I'm talking about things in high school, not, and now it's like, I don't want to go back. But you don't realize you're trapped in a pit and you think you're free, but all you've done is just kind of made a home down in your pit.
And you've normalized it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just home.
Yeah.
And normalizing it just, it's in some ways what you're describing is what we've done as a society with abortion, right? With sexuality, with porn.
Yeah.
Like we've just normalized it. It's just part of our world.
Yeah.
Not realizing that that's actually literally trapping us, like you said, down in the pit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's interesting. So that's kind of the journey that you had with the pastor's wife that kind of started the healing journey for you, huh?
Oh my gosh, so much so. I will say that that's probably the moment that ministry was born for me.
Okay.
Where I knew that he is who he says he is, where this love story with Jesus was really born for me, and I wanted to help other people find that journey. So we literally moved here. Let's see, that all happened in November, so it was just such a life-changing experience. I was literally, how people talk about accepting the Lord and their life is one way and mine wasn't that.
Okay.
I accepted the Lord and I walked in fear. I was so afraid for what my family would think, what others would think of me. And I still had so much self-hatred.
Yeah.
I was still so buried. I knew that I was saved, knew that I had said yes to Jesus, but there wasn't joy in it until I received the forgiveness for the abortion. That really feels like that was the starting point for my journey with Jesus. And so we moved here to Spokane.
Wow.
Just within about 6 months after that, my husband got transferred in his job. And so we moved here.
Funny how God gives you a fresh start when you need one.
It was so incredible. And I honestly don't remember. We were trying to get plugged into a church, and I think I went searching for life services because I didn't hear about them any other way. I think I literally looked in the phone book and went searching for life services.
What's a phone book?
I know, right? I said I'm just a little bit older. So we found our church in the phone book too, which is really funny. So
Life Services, Life Center. You're like, we'll just do that.
we settled at a Life Center church plant. Sorry, Michael. It was Joe then. But I started volunteering at Life Services, and I remember calling them and saying, hey, I just had this really significant healing experience with the Lord from a past abortion. I'd love to come help. Yeah. And they said, that's great, but you get to go through, anybody who's had an abortion experience gets to go through a course that we call Post-Abortion Counseling and Education. It was called PACE back then. And I was so mad. I was like, I am going to give you guys some of my hours, some of my time, and you're going to make me jump through a hoop? What the heck? And now I lead those groups, and and I get it because God had another layer to take off.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And so that was my start with Life Services.
Okay.
And then they kind of got a hold of my story, and I told my story on a bunch of different videos for them. And then from there, God called me into the church.
Okay.
So I say a lot often that Life Services trained me for ministry because they have and we still have pretty incredible ministry training, but then launched me into the local church. And
that brings me into a curious conversation or question I've wanted to know.
Okay.
When you took over as the executive director at Life Service, you were also a pastor at a church. How in the world did you balance the two?
I'm still a pastor at a church.
You're still doing both?
Yes, I still do both.
You must just be incredible.
No, I stretch pretty thin, and then
you must learn how to build good teams.
And I've learned how to build a really good team.
Okay.
Yeah, and I learned that from North Church. So we were at Life Center North, and I was women's ministry director to begin with, and never thought, I was a high school teacher. I never thought I'd step into ministry. And there were still a lot of remnants of insecurity and even having this. I really stepped into ministry with an amazing healing story, right? And a faith in Jesus and teaching skill. That's all I had to offer the church. And I love...
Oh, and you got your teaching skill from being an actual teacher?
I was a high school teacher.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that about you. That's cool.
So when we were in Montana, before we had our kiddos, was a teacher for a lot of years and loved that.
Cool.
Yeah, believe it or not, I had 6 different students come to me and tell me they were pregnant in my years there. And 3 of them chose life. 3 of them chose abortion. And the 3 that chose abortion, I blamed myself. Isn't that crazy? I thought I could save their babies. And 2 of those happened before I was a Christian, before I said yes to the Lord.
Wow.
So it just, it's
just something that's been in you.
Well, and it almost created a superhero complex. Like,
that's another thing I would wonder. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with women coming into the clinic and then because we always want to tell the stories of the wins, but let's be honest, they're not always wins. Not every person that comes to Helping Captives ends up going through our program fully with no relapse and ends up becoming, starting a business or whatever. It's not like that. Most of them are constantly in relapse and constantly struggling. How do you deal with having somebody come in the clinic and then choosing to still go forward with an abortion? Like, how do you process that?
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Be Bold for Jesus. If you've ever felt the urge to live out your faith more boldly, to step up and make an impact in your workplace, your church, or your community, this conference is for you. The Be Bold for Jesus conference is coming back to Spokane, Washington. It's a weekend packed with worship, encouragement, and practical tools to help you live out your faith confidently. You'll hear from incredible speakers who are living examples of what it means to be bold for Christ. Tickets are on sale now at BeBoldForJesus.org. That's BeBoldForJesus.org. Grab your tickets today and let's be bold together.
It's a release to the Lord. And I think
just kind of going, did I do everything I could do?
That's, yep. That's 2 things. I think that's a choice that we our team has to readily walk in. That we value you enough to never coerce or manipulate you to try to choose something we want for you. You have to own your decision. We will pray for you, and we will answer all the questions, inform you, point you in all the directions that we think will help you. But ultimately, if we truly believe that Jesus gives us free will, how are we not going to allow you to then walk in your own free will? And so there's a release there. And honestly, I think when you've worked in a church, there's so much of that. You can't change anybody. I've got somebody who's walking in. I remember I had one little gal who walked in and she said, I need to know how to pay my rent. Because I went to my landlord and he told me how he wants me to pay my rent. And I don't want to do that with him. Can you help me pay my rent? And I was just working at a church. I was just leading women's ministry and faced with stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
All the time.
Yeah, me and about 4 bikers are going to pay your rent. That would be my answer to that. Where do you live? What's your apartment?
Oh, and that was so much the reaction.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah. But then, but I think working in actual church ministry and working with people who come to the church as the last resort so often, or life is just darn hard. So can the church fix me? You either own everybody's stuff and you just get buried by it, or you learn to release that back to the Lord and say, I'm going to do everything I can, like you said, to love this person, to speak truth into this person, but then I'm going to release this person to make the choices because they have to be the one who owns it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the carryover from church to life services. So I was on staff for 12 years, had become a Foursquare pastor, and was leading groups, leading a discipleship program called Rooted.
Rooted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we used to, when we were doing all the street outreach stuff, we would have so many of the Rooted groups come down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So North Church actually went to California to Mariners
Okay.
and explored Rooted, kind of brought it back here. And so part of my job was helping Life Center and all the other churches establish Rooted in their churches. And so that was, so
But you crushed it because I remember having the food distribution center on Havana Street, and I'm not exaggerating. When we had Life Center's Rooted groups come, there had to be 100+ people.
yeah, our first celebrations, we had 200-300 people in the
Yeah, and I'm
celebrations.
trying to be conservative, not sensationalize it, but
Yeah.
there was probably closer to that.
It was probably my favorite discipleship tool that we did. And I'd led dozens and dozens of Bible studies and discipleship classes. And I think I loved Rooted because it was experiential.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, it didn't matter whether you were brand new, whether you didn't know the Lord or you'd been following him for decades. You could come in and God had an aha moment for you. So I had developed kind of a networking piece that when you work at one church, that doesn't always happen. But I
Okay.
had all these contacts. And then I'd stepped on the board of Project 619, remember?
Yeah. Jason.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd been bugging me to be on his board. And I'd been on a couple of years by then.
Okay.
And I remember he called me one day and I was driving and Jason said, I want your permission to throw your name in the hat for Life Services Executive Director because the director just stepped down.
Yeah.
And I literally drove off the road. I drove into the ditch. I was like, I couldn't fathom sitting in that seat.
Wow.
The founding director, her name's Paula Cullen. She is the Caleb Altmeyer of Life Services. And I had still have so much respect for the woman. Just could not fathom that God would let me sit in her chair. And so it's kind of a funny story, but I love the way the Lord did it. We went to a Foursquare conference, the staff and I and several others. And there was a moment where they were just asking leaders and pastors to come forward for prayer. And I felt I had just been walking in comparison syndrome. And I felt like the Lord just said, I want you to get rid of all your I can'ts, I'm nots, I won'ts, I don'ts. So I just fell on my face, confessed them all before him and said, I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do. And I felt like he said, good, go plant a church. And I didn't even know how I felt about women in senior leadership. I had a hard time even stepping in, owning the title pastor as a female. Had done all my research, knew how I could back that, but senior leadership was just... So I said, okay, I'll go home. Came home, talked to my husband, talked to our senior pastor, and both of them said, I don't think I see it. So I sat on that, just going, okay, Lord, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That was in October. I got asked to apply for Life Services in February, and it was in the second interview, the board chair said, let me put this in terms that I think you'll understand. We're asking you to come be our senior pastor of Life Services. And I went,
okay.
There
Then
it
you're
is.
like, that theologically lines up with everything, and it's running a ministry that's funny. Mm-hmm. Cool.
So that's how God
So
got
that's
me
how
there.
he confirmed it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Never
Interesting.
thought I'd be in this. I thought this was little old ladies making quilts for babies. I so underestimated.
Little old ladies making quilts for babies.
I thought
could
that was
write a
the
song
core.
for you out of that if you want. a life services theme song. I can make it
You
happen.
could.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the crazy thing. We have a lot of seasoned ladies who make quilts for us.
Yeah.
It's amazing what God does and how God has helped me see the value
Yeah.
in the body of Christ, from little ladies making quilts to college kids who are willing to stand up in their class and say,
Yeah. There's some boldness.
life has value at conception.
Yeah.
And we get to be involved with all of them
Yeah.
and get to speak in and speak wisdom into all of it.
Yeah. Man, that's incredible. I want to switch gears on you here.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to put your executive director hat on.
Okay.
What do you think is some of the biggest misconceptions that people might have about pregnancy centers and the pro-life movement?
Well, I think there's the obvious ones that we've heard through several of the news channels that were fake clinics. There's not a pregnancy medical center that I know that isn't run by a physician assistant, somebody with a medical license. In order to be a medical clinic, you have to have leadership by somebody who holds an actual medical license.
Yeah.
So you can't really be a fake clinic.
Yeah, if you need licenses.
Yeah, if you need a medical license. And
unless you're Somalian and you're opening a daycare.
I know, which, yeah, I don't know, we'll go there. But
that was my backup plan to fund the Freedom Center.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one there. There you go, Caleb.
Trying to get you canceled more. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to try it. Yeah. Then they'll really key in on the fake clinic thing. I think that's one of the big misnomers. Mm-hmm. We have 10 registered nurses, 8 of which are on staff, right? We have a nurse practitioner and an OBGYN, all of whom see all of our clients for everything from high-risk pregnancy to we see guys and gals, right? Guys who are coming and going, I think I have an STD.
Yeah.
What do I do? So our team are having conversations about people's sexual practices and habits and how's that playing out for you health-wise to all the way up to how's breastfeeding going.
Yeah.
And then all the way over to, we have a fatherhood program.
Dude, when you become a parent and you have to like all of that, even the breastfeeding thing with the wife, you're like, man, this is everything about being a mom and a female. I was just like, I am so happy
that this is
with
you
my role
and not
in
you.
this.
Yes.
And I'm like, I can't even imagine. I'm like a first kid just waking up to the stinking pumping, and I'm just like, we had to figure out a way to have like a sleep schedule because I was like, I'm losing my mind. But it's not as simple as people would imagine for a lot of people. It's all of this stuff of being a mom. I'm like, you need an entire community around you to figure this out. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's great. You help women just even with that aspect of like just breastfeeding a kid when they have a baby.
Well, and then we help the dad.
Yeah.
I think that's so here's one of my big passions. And early on, I saw these guys sitting out in the parking lot smoking their cigarette because their gal's inside getting a pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And I'd stop and talk with them. They're just as scared as she is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece where most people think that pregnancy is just a matter of, do you keep that baby? Do you abort that baby? We're talking about an actual human life, and we're talking about the care of an actual human life. And so you and I as parents both know what that takes, but somebody who's living an active, addictive lifestyle, they're in college, they don't have family, they don't have any support system around them, but they've bought this societal narrative that says you just get to go sleep with whoever you want to. Anytime you want to, that sex is not something to be cherished or kept for a spouse. Yeah. That is our societal narrative, and abortion is kind of the end product of that. Well, of course, let's just dismiss the life that's created out of that beautiful union. And so I think that's one of the other misnomers that we are anti-abortion, so we are taking something away from somebody, taking some kind of right from a woman, when in reality, what we are doing is we're trying to help open somebody's eyes to the reality of this human being. Okay. That your act, you two had sex. Yeah. Your act created this human being. Yeah. And that's not to be dismissed easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think I often say that there are easy ministries to give to where society, almost across the board, agrees that this is a worthy cause. Hunger,
homelessness, food. That's why homeless organizations usually get funded pretty well.
Yep. Yeah. Puppies. Yeah. Wells in Africa, and not to dismiss any of that, right? But let's give to the Humane Society because everybody loves a good puppy or a kitty. Or, I think one of the hard parts for people who are working in pro-life ministry is we don't just get to come in and present the ministry. we're also battling all these political ideals and all this rhetoric that has been fed society. And there isn't anybody who hasn't heard it. There isn't anybody.
And you're already hated by half of the country.
Yep.
Just because of the pro-life name.
Yep. Because pro-life has really become a political title, or a political, in some ways, a political party, I guess, if you will. And so, so it feels often like a battle of worldviews more than anything else. Like bringing the conversation all the way back to your belief system before we even start talking about ministry.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, 100%. You're definitely stepping into the war when you took the job.
Yeah, in more ways than one. In my first year, I think one of the hard parts for me, Caleb, is how hard my family's gotten hit. In my first year, and I'm not saying this is because I stepped into the role, but I definitely think that there was an effort to try to keep me out, right? So my mom was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and within my first 5 months, my mother-in-law, 3 months later, diagnosed with cancer. She lived with us. So lost my mom in that first year. Mother-in-law battle. Husband had a head injury a year later, lost his medical career. Bounced back. And so, and we see on a regular basis, within a week, front end or back end of when I'm out speaking, that my husband will get hit now. With medical yuck. So it's been pretty crazy. Our board has been phenomenal in just backing me and creating prayer networks. But this is a part of the pro-life ministry that I never expected. Was just the battle against life is so intense and insidious. And there's a cost to staying in it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I hear you. And we obviously see a lot of the same people, because a lot of times A leads to B. Trafficking oftentimes leads to abortions or forced abortions. And it's definitely a war. One of the things that we had Lee Arnold from Be Bold for Jesus came on the podcast, and he brought something up that I just got to be honest with you, I never thought about. Because there's a lot of doing like IVF and the frozen embryo type of thing now. And he said that he didn't even think about it. They did it. He ended up having his kids. And then later on in life, he got something in the mail or something that asked him if they were okay with they wanted to be able to destroy the frozen embryos or something like that, because it had been, they hold on to them for such a period of time and then they get rid of them. And he said he felt really, really convicted, and they actually went forward with trying to see if those embryos would still take and have kids, because he just felt weird about it, or just felt convicted about it, because he believes that like life starts at conception, and that was his thought process on it. You're in this world, like what is your like perspective on how Christians should value like embryos and ethical questions surrounding IVF, because it's such a new thing that a lot of people are doing, and I really just don't know. I've never really dove into it.
I think to answer that, I think we have to dial back to where does life actually begin. Okay. I mean, that's really the age-old question, right? Yeah. So we teach this in a workshop that I wrote called Communicating Life. Okay. We teach it in different churches, and we kind of paint the landscape of where abortion is at. But what we really have to decide is what we believe. So science and scripture, believe it or not, actually complement each other. They don't contradict each other. So over and over, we see all these scriptures. We see these stories where Mary, pregnant with baby Jesus, walks in the room. Elizabeth, her cousin, is pregnant with John the Baptist, and John the Baptist leaps in her womb, right? So we see over and over Scripture paint the value of preborn life, that's actual life, right? Well, what we see in science is that the preborn are very much human. Our DNA determines that. 23 chromosomes from mom, 23 chromosomes from dad, right? There's never been human DNA that has created a cat, dog, horse, or platypus. Hasn't happened, right? They're very much alive from the moment of conception. It's been proven that they are very much alive. They have everything necessary. They're not an amoeba. They are a full human. All they need is time to continue to develop into the humans that everything is already there. Okay. And so I think with that, we have to ask ourselves, if we believe that life begins at conception and that all that baby needs is time to become independent enough, big enough, strong enough to exit the womb and live on their own, then okay. If we are going to mess with that, if we're going to take an egg and we're going to take a sperm, we're going to take them out of the uterus. They still have to have the uterus to survive, right? A lot of people don't realize that the only purpose for the uterus, there is no other purpose in a woman's body except to carry a child. Yeah. So if we're going to take the sperm and egg out, we're going to fertilize them, do all of this with IVF, and then we're going to freeze them before we implant them in a uterus. Is that actually a human life? And if it is, am I okay with it being frozen, destroyed?
Because the embryo is the actual human life.
Yes.
Going and placing in a uterus is where it's
the uterus is the house.
Got it. Okay.
The uterus is the house where they're developed, where they're connected to the life source of the mama, right? The umbilical cord and all of that. But the human life itself begins at conception. So,
it's just a Wi-Fi thing. I'm not totally sure what's going on. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So I think the question of IVF, every single person, if you're watching, you have to ask yourself, do you actually agree with science and Scripture and the fact that they do complement each other and they both prove that life begins at conception? There's another stat out there, 96% of biologists who study life agree that life begins at conception. Okay. If we truly believe that, I think it tests the whole IVF piece. Yeah. Because when eggs are harvested, they're not just implanting one, they're not just freezing one. Oftentimes it's such a horrendous procedure. I personally know some people who've been through the procedure that they'll harvest several, they'll try to fertilize.
That's what happened with them. They harvested a bunch of them and impregnated, I don't even remember, 10 of them or something.
Right? Well, then so now you've got another
10 of them took or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. Those are actual human beings.
That's how Lee was looking at it too,
yeah. I love the snowflake adoptions. I don't know if you heard about that, you can actually, there are places where you can adopt embryos and then have those implanted.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad I asked that question because I was just like, I don't know. Because there is a part of you that's like, okay, well, they're trying to have a baby and some of them took and some of them didn't. That's kind of all you hear. And then you're thinking, okay, great. They had twins a lot of times. Seems like all my friends that have had twins went through IVF and had a hard time getting pregnant. So I love the ability to do that. I think it's great that they can be parents and that they can still have kids. I just didn't know. So you would say only, I mean, I'm assuming here, but you would say only if you want to have 2 kids, just try to have 2 kids. Don't pull like 20 of them out and then just take 2 and throw the 18 of them away. Or like, I'm just trying to rationalize in my head.
Yeah. I think if you've got somebody who's decided to do IVF, I think it's just like, it's as critical to think with your frontal lobe, not just your emotional centers, right? This is where so many people, when we're in a snap decision, we think emotionally. We don't think rationally. We don't think logically. We don't think, okay, if we pull 5, right, and we only implant 2, what are we prepared to do with the other 3? Because those are still our children.
Okay.
So viewing them not as embryos, viewing those are our children. What are we willing to do? Okay. And walking that out before you ever even start the process, I think that's a critical piece. I think the other piece, being an adoptive parent, the adoption piece those were probably some of the biggest fights my husband and I ever had. Because I had a great pregnancy with Reed. I wanted to be pregnant again. Didn't want to adopt, and my husband knew from the time he was 12 that we were supposed to adopt. And I literally prayed about it overnight. I had a friend who suggested, why don't you stop praying for God to change your husband's mind and pray that he brings you together? Literally overnight, I was like, I woke up the next morning and went, I could do this.
Yeah.
I could raise another woman's baby.
Yeah. Crazy too, because if you wouldn't have, I don't know if you would have got triggered in the ways that would have produced the fruit in your life that you're currently walking in right now.
Adam has so much. I mean, God has purpose in him beyond me, but just I see what God's done through him.
Just in your own life.
In me, and he's such an amazing guy. He's 23. Love that kid. But being an adoptive parent is not easy, and I know what Adam has walked through. He knows his birth mom and a couple of his birth siblings, but it's not been easy for him. For a while, adoption was his own personal insult. And yet, here's the thing about walking with Jesus. We want life to just be so smooth and so easy, and we don't want to have to deal with any pain. For Adam to wrestle down who his identity truly is in the Lord, no matter what family he was raised in, has been a beautiful thing. Hard.
Well, ultimately, we all are adopted into Christ's family.
We are. And I think people dismiss adoption because it's too emotionally hard.
What frustrates me about the adoption process is how freaking expensive and challenging it appears from the outside looking in to be for people that have tried to go and get an adoption. And that to me seems frustrating to me. It appears like from the conversations that I've had, you would know more than me. A couple things. One, I've heard these stories. I'm not totally sure, but they have. I've been told, hey, we went in, we talked. They asked us some questions. One of the questions is if your kid ends up growing up to be an LGBTQ member, how are you going to raise them? And if my answer is not, I'm going to be fine with it. Versus and their answer might be, we'd still love them. We would never hurt them. We'd never be, abandon them, but we would raise them in the way the scripture tells us to be. That would be their answer. Then they've told me that they were not able to continue on because of that answer. So it made them kind of feel disqualified to even adopt being people of faith. So I don't know if there's faith, like Christian adoption agencies. I don't know if that's the answer for the church, because we can't just say we're against abortion and not step into the game and get into the fight. So I just don't even know what would be the answer. Would it be going to Christian adoption agencies? And then I just heard it's extremely expensive, which it's expensive to have a baby. But it's crazy to me. Why would it be expensive? Why wouldn't they just make it easy? That's just, and there's probably a lot more to that. And they you can't just take somebody that walks in the room out of nowhere and says, I'm qualified to adopt a kid. But there's always more to it. But that's the things that seem to frustrate people or question it.
On the adoptive parent side? Yeah. And I think what we hear more often on the client side is a gal says, I could never give my baby to somebody else. And what we know is that oftentimes if a gal is not in a place to parent and she chooses to parent anyways, and adoption or Child Protective Services has to get involved. Right. Oftentimes that's more painful. But if she'll really truly seek whether or not she's supposed to step into it, she gets to choose a family to parent her child. So we work with Lifeline Children's Services. They're here in Spokane, but they're out of Alabama. They're international. And here's what I'll say to the whole cost thing. I know international adoption.
It's just something that comes up all the time in the conversation. So I want to ask somebody that's actually in it.
It's a little bit of a misnomer.
Okay.
So it costs people nothing. It costs them time, and there is some and quite a bit of emotion to foster. There are certain states, Washington State is one of them, that have some restrictions or some very...
But you have to go through the foster care system in order to adopt now?
No. To adopt through the foster care system. So there's programs out there called Foster to Adopt, where a child has been removed from their biological parent's custody, and it's very highly likely that that parent will not retain their rights. That child is kind of higher on the adoption list. And so so there are some things that Washington State puts in place for foster that makes it hard to foster for Christian parents. But
the reason this all kind of came up was, this is going to sound crazy. Me and my son were watching a basketball movie. And it's called Like Mike. It's a kid's basketball movie. He finds some Michael Jordan shoes, and all of a sudden he's in the NBA. But the kid is from an orphanage.
Oh, okay.
And it just hit me watching it with him of like they would have these adoption parties or something at the orphanage, and families would come in, and the kids just kind of said, "See, we're like we're like dogs. Like, they only want the puppies." And you see all the parents with the little kids, with the older kids aren't getting chosen. And I'm like, but I don't. Obviously, it's going to hit me because it's just my heart for people and for these kids. But I just also was thinking, I don't think it's that easy to just walk into an orphanage and just pick a kid. I don't even know if they do that anymore. And so then I was like, don't they have to go through the foster care system? And then I just, unfortunately hear a lot of horrific, heartbreaking stories of people that go in the foster care system, and they think they're going to get the baby, and it goes back to an abusive parent or something like that. Or the kids, they get to them, and the kids are all drug babies. And it's just nightmare after nightmare story, and it just saddens your heart. And I was just going like, how does it work if somebody genuinely wants to just adopt a kid?
Yeah, we have one in process right now with Lifeline, and you hear the horror stories. Let me give you some of the beautiful stories, because
that's probably like the comment section on the video. No one comments when they like it; they just comment all the horror stories.
All the horror stories. Yeah. I have 6 different staff members, and we're all adoptive parents. Some have adopted through foster care, some through. Like ours was just a private adoption. Here's what I can tell you about Adam's adoption. Was we didn't have the funds to pay for the attorney fees. Ours wasn't horrendously expensive. But what was crazy...
Because it was a private adoption, so you had a family.
We had a family. Yep, so this was a family introduction. We just felt like we were supposed to come along, Adam's birth mom. And 6 months in, we were just trying to disciple her. And 6 months in, we said, okay, you're getting to where you need to make a decision. What are you going to do? And she said, I want you guys to adopt him. So I still remember where she was standing in our house. It was crazy. And so we moved forward. We had our church involved. Here's what I can tell you is that God provided almost to the dollar through another kind of a side gig that my husband was doing, all the fees that we needed for the attorney fees. And
to me, that makes sense of just doing the basic attorney fees or trying to figure that out. But and that's where I could be wrong, is I would hope that it would be that simple. But it sounds like there's maybe in other situations, if it's not like, you're in a situation where you're with the lady discipling her, she's choosing to do that. But then it's like that orphanage thing in my head is like, but what about the kids that you don't know that are sitting at an orphanage or something like that, or just wanting moms and dads? Why can't people, like, is it simple to go get it? Like, that's
nothing simple.
I know, and that's what saddens me, because I'm like, man, I wish it was more simple than that.
But think about this, Caleb. Was it simple for you to have your babe, like your first kiddo? It was 9 months.
My job wasn't too complicated.
I know. I think we want it to be so easy. And there's a beautiful piece about adoption is if it was that easy, I don't know. I think that the Lord often
And I don't mean background
allows
checking and things like that, but if you have a bunch of people in the church that fill the heart and are like, we want to go adopt kids, I just wish there was maybe a streamlined or easier way to kind of do that.
Yeah. I do know that there are organizations that do.
Okay.
And healthy organizations that do, that don't gouge you. And I do know that there are free or organizations that do it for free. I also know that our foster care system's a bit broken. So, but again, that's state run. So I fully believe in it.
No, that helps me that there are agencies out there that are like Christian adoption agencies that won't turn you away because of your faith.
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely want Christians.
I would love to, if you know of one, I'd love to bring him on the show. I've got so many questions.
Oh, Herbie Newell. We just had him at the center last week.
Yeah, I'd love to have somebody in because I just have a lot of questions about it.
Yeah.
You just sparked a whole nother like topic in my head.
And we just got you another, I get him on our podcast before you get him though. We'll share him. Okay. We'll bring him back to town.
Okay.
And then, and you can have him.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's not an easy question though, is it? I think when you consider everything that we've talked about with abortion, with sex trafficking, with adoption, I mean, there is a reason God created intimacy to be between a man and a woman who are married. Right? In a monogamous marital relationship. There's a beauty in that and a simplicity in that just it cuts all of these other things off at the knees.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we love being able to do is even talking to youth about the relationship aspect, their sexuality. We just launched a program called Arrow that we're teaching in youth groups.
That's great.
Where we get to actually have them have the healthy conversations in relationship and actually think through what they're doing.
When you're looking at the next generation, what concerns you the most and then what excites you the most?
Oh, the next generation. I think what concerns me the most is so many of them are here and they're believing what's here.
Okay.
Right? I'm on social media. I'm on TikTok. I'm on whatever else. And so the stuff that is the opinions and so much of the rhetoric that is thrown around here is so false. You might remember that there was a Petri dish picture going around a while ago that said this actually isn't a human being. It's just tissue. Right? Well, we know, like we've actually had, we know physicians, I know one of them personally, who does surgery on fetus embryos in utero. And we have pictures in utero of babies at 9 weeks. We can see every detail.
Wow.
So human life, heartbeat, brain, right? Yeah. So that concerns me because those kind of pictures go viral.
I was always subconsciously told, like, it's weird, but like before church and stuff, I was always kind of like, well, most of them would be like, well, life starts when there's a heartbeat. And then they'd be like, well, heartbeat doesn't show up for 2 weeks or whatever. So that's where the day after pill became okay. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it changes when it's at conception.
It's at conception.
Yeah.
It changes everything, doesn't it?
It changes everything.
Yeah. And doesn't that feel like the design of a holy creator?
Yeah.
More so than let's just put this at heartbeat or let's just put this at viability or when they actually have sentience, which none of us have that until we're much older. Yeah. So that's probably my big concern is that the ease of which people can just jump in and say this is fact without actually having to critically think through, does this even make logical sense that I'm saying this is fact? Yeah. Right? What excites me is to hear that young people and young men especially are starting to see again the value of family. We're starting to see more and more young men in youth groups and young men in schools when we teach ask the questions about abortion and they're not satisfied with it anymore. oftentimes we will hear young men who are against sex outside of marriage and especially abortion. And so that excites me. I think women have been, I think young women have been hurt and convinced that the world owes them something and that masculinity is bad. I would love just to see the two sexes come again and really respect each other again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If someone is listening to this right now and they've experienced an abortion and they're carrying like shame, regret, or hopelessness, what would you want them to know?
Don't wait. If I had one thing, waiting 16 years and almost losing my family, not worth it. Walking through the wall of fear, there will be a wall of fear. I will not sugarcoat this. It's not easy to walk back through something that you've chosen or that's been chosen for you that was extremely painful. But waiting, the heat gets turned up and it will not go away. But the freedom that Jesus has to offer you, the healing that is absolutely available, whether you're the gal or whether you're the guy that pushed for or paid for it, it is available for you. Why would you wait? There are resource centers like ours all over the world who offer healing groups, workshops, classes, whatever you want to call them, to help you walk through the pain of the abortion. And we're never allowed to grieve. That's the crazy thing. Somebody who's walked through a miscarriage is readily encouraged to grieve. They had a loss. There was a recognition that this was a baby that you lost. Somebody who's had an abortion lost a baby. It may have been at their own hand. They may have taken the abortion pill. They may have pushed for or paid for it, right? But they're not allowed to grieve that baby. Instead, they're told to celebrate.
Also crazy to think about that is that if somebody said they had a miscarriage, our heart goes, oh, that was a baby. But if they go, well, we had an abortion, they go, it was a clump of cells.
It was a clump. Yep.
Super interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think one of the other things I would want to, that really concerns me is we live in this just real fast, let's get it done society. 60 to 80% of all abortions are chemical now, and they're coming to people's door in the mail and with no medical oversight. Like literally a guy can take a picture. So this is how traffickers do this. They can take a picture of a gal's ID, and the guy, this is the first time in history, a guy can receive the abortion pills in the mail.
What the heck?
And we're hearing all these stories of them slipping into her drink, right? Forcing abortions on gals who are pregnant without their knowledge or with their knowledge. You've got 15-year-olds who go in their bathroom and they're told it'll just be like a period. And then these are labor-inducing drugs. So you got to let that sink in. Many of us who've had babies, we were in the hospital. Our labor was induced because we were too late, right? We're 41 weeks or something. And they were like, we're going to induce. Those are labor-inducing drugs. They have doctors and nurses around them at the hospital. We're sending these to a teenager's door, telling her to go in her bathroom by herself and for the next 24 hours undergo an abortion with labor-inducing drugs. No pain meds, no medical oversight, and 11% of them are ending up in the ER with life-threatening complications. And literally the writing, we've got the writing, or we've got the paperwork, says if you go to the ER, don't tell anybody that you've had an abortion. Tell them that you were miscarrying.
Oh, my goodness.
And people don't. People think that, oh, that's okay.
And you've got the receipts of that?
It's her writing. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Could you text me a picture of it?
I can.
I could put it up. That's crazy. All right, last question.
Yep.
If a young Glendie was listening to this podcast today, pre-abortion,
Yeah.
what would you tell her?
Slow down. Crazy thing is I would tell her, go to the church. And I didn't have a church. But walk in the doors of a church. I literally was meeting with somebody the other day who was my age, had an abortion, got pregnant again, and was meeting. She was in the military, and she wasn't religious, had no faith background, but just knew that the military offered a chaplain. And the chaplain asked her, okay, if you're going to do this, I just want to ask you one question. Could you live with your decision for the rest of your life if you go forward with an abortion? I wish that somebody had asked me that. So, and I know I would have been asked that if I had gone into a church. I hope I would have been asked that if I'd gone into a church.
So you'd already came up with the answer before the opportunity came. You'd already have thought it out.
Yeah.
Or had accountability, or just had a different voice in your head.
I wish I would have had a different voice in my head. Yeah. And
Well, thanks for coming on and being so honest about all this stuff with us and sharing your story. It's, I think one of the things that's going to change and transform and help the next generation is if we're honest and open about things that we wish we would have changed or things that we wish we could have done differently. You always hear the narrative, I wouldn't have changed anything. It's what made me who I am today. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of things the 37-year-old Caleb looks back at the 17-year-old Caleb and is like, no, bro, don't do that. Like,
right.
You're literally like, well, that's going to cause 5 years of hell in your marriage.
Right.
That decision right there, So, but I think that's what's great is just, it's just us being willing and open to share some of the hard things that we've been through.
Yeah.
It's going to be the thing that helps the next generation. It's so easy to just want to appear, especially when you're a pastor, like all the good things, but at the end of the day, that's not necessarily what people connect with.
Yeah.
And so thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me, Caleb. It's a privilege.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, I want you to make sure to like and share and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We're grateful for every listener. Your support helps us keep sharing stories of faith, hope, and real transformation. And if this episode encouraged or challenged you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. If you'd like to support victims of sex trafficking and be part of the fight for freedom, visit helpingcaptives.org to learn more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.